We want to thank everyone for joining us. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, and also Inside Sports. This is a special treat for not only Pop Culture Cosmos on our Pop Culture Cosmos channel, but also Inside Sports, as it is, well, hopefully it will be our annual NBA prediction show. Once again, Gerald Glassford here from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. Truly appreciate you joining us. And who better to get into the NBA season as far as predictions, who's going to do what, who's eventually going to become out on top, and all that. But our NBA man in the know, he is our expert when it comes to the round ball and the association. He is my good friend. It's Anthony Barbarin. Anthony, it's just truly again a pleasure to be talking to you about just all the great stuff that's going on in the NBA.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on as always. Look forward to a quick conversation about what we can expect from some of these teams this year and how much fun the NBA is going to be.
Well, I think we'll be able to cover a lot of bases. I'm going to devote a good chunk of time to it. So let's get into it right now. First off, I want to go to the Eastern Conference, which is perceived by most experts, including yourself, and whatever little I know. Okay, I know a little bit more about the NBA, but I will try and keep it on the lowdown. But I want to talk about the Eastern Conference first because they are perceived as the weaker conference, and to a lot of people, it's not even close. But when it comes to the Eastern Conference, I want to start off at the top. Who are the three teams that you think, or three or four teams that you think will contend for the Eastern Conference? Best say that at the top of the food chain in the Eastern Conference.
Um, well, the number one team is Cleveland. They have LeBron, they have the best player on the planet. Last 3 years, regardless of where they finish, one, maybe three, they are the favorites in the Eastern Conference to represent that conference in the NBA championship. Uh, don't see anybody knocking them off. I don't think they'll finish with the best record, but I do think they will be the team in the championship.
Similar what happened last year, correct?
Right. As far as the number one record, I actually think Washington with the number one overall seed. I just think they are 2 games out of the top seed last year. They to their pieces, and they have the continuity and the together to be able to put together enough wins to get that top seed.
Yeah, that's a good point because I'll tell you what, when it comes to Washington, like you said, the cohesiveness, because they've been together as a collective starting unit for 2, 3 years now, as opposed to Cleveland and Boston, which are always changing in flux. And even if Cleveland and Boston might be better at the tail end of the season, that might be enough to at least get the Washington Bullets. Well, I'm going to say the Bullets. The Washington Wizards. I can't say Bullets anymore. Washington Wizards, their chance at the top. So, for at least as far as to get that first seed. But I agree with you as far as Cleveland's concerned. I think there'll be enough resting of LeBron over the course of the year, maybe to shave off about 5 to 10 wins. So they'll be coming in as a second and third seed. But that doesn't really bother them because when it comes to the actual playoffs, it looks like Cleveland, if Isaiah Thomas is healthy, when hopefully he can come back around the latter part of the season. If he is healthy with that hip and productive, almost as productive as he was in Boston, that could be a great sign for Cleveland to come out on top in the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, I think postseason it's all about second half of the season. Going in with momentum, going in, um, it, basically clicking on all cylinders, getting everybody comfortable with each other. I think they'll tinker with that lineup throughout the course of the season to see what's the right fit, who goes with who, how to get the floor spread. So I think it'll take them a little time to hit their stride. Um, Boston, I'm not sold on defensively. I think a lot of their heart and what they wanted to do, how scrappy they were, a lot of those pieces away to get what they believe they needed to get over the hump. So I think they will lose some of those closer games that their defense Bradley and Jay Crowder helped them to win. Washington is the favorite in that. Toronto was pretty close as well. I mean, the top 4 seeds were really close to each other on the Eastern Conference last year. I just don't know if they'll be healthy enough with what Kyle Lowry went through last year. If he's going to be able to play enough games for them to get that number 1 seed. However, I do think Jay Miles addition and Damari Carroll wasn't really a good fit there. I think that will help them as a unit. But I think Washington in the Eastern Conference will probably end up with the number 1 seed. But I still expect Cleveland to come out of the East.
I agree with you on that. I don't think Toronto is as strong this year, and obviously they have histories of injuries with Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, where they cannot be trusted to be going through a full season, and seeing them on top would be, for me, a stretch indeed. Now, there's also, when it comes to the top 8 seeds, there's also the 5th through 8th, and there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be contending for those bottom spots in the Eastern Conference. I have Milwaukee as one of my teams that could surprise. They've got some depth, and they also have some young, very talented, also as well very athletic, and also very long defensively. And I think they could surprise a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference. But who are some of the other teams that you think that can grab those lower end spots in the Eastern Conference?
I was looking at that this morning, actually throughout the week. I see Milwaukee, like you said, making it. Charlotte has a good opportunity to make it. Really, it's funny because my 8th seed is just I have no idea who's gonna make it. It can be any thing. I think Miami will make it. I think those will be the other 3 teams. But anybody from Detroit, to Philadelphia if they're healthy. I don't think Brooklyn will make it. I don't think the Knicks will make it. I don't think the Bulls will make it. But Indiana has some young talent. They only won 42 games last year, but anything can happen. I think the top 7 will be the original top 4 with Milwaukee, Miami, and Charlotte. Is just, in my opinion, a major toss-up.
And there's going to be a lot of teams heading for those bottom spots. Philadelphia could surprise, but like you said, it all depends on their health, because they have probably as much talent as probably almost anyone in the Eastern Conference. But the problem is their talent's still young, and their talent has never proven to be healthy as of yet. But if Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Markelle Fultz, they combine to be a very healthy triumvirate, they can also become a very strong one. And I see a progression similar to what Minnesota has done in the Western Conference. I see them in probably not this season making the playoffs. They probably will just miss, but because they'll probably be getting everything in tune by that time. But I see a year from now them becoming a very, very strong force in the Eastern Conference. You also have, like you said, Miami. A lot of signings which left me scratching my head as far as free agents are concerned, but they ended the season very strong, and I see them doing enough to maybe sneak in. Charlotte, you talked about, had a down year last year, but they've got a talent base that looks like it can, defensively and rebounding, can really, really put up some numbers. There's some decent teams overall in the Eastern Conference. Indiana getting rid of Paul George because he wanted to go. Um,
Right.
it makes it harder for them. They've got some nice young talent that you said, but I don't think see it happening and coming to fruition just yet. Chicago. Chicago is going to be a tough season, I think, for people in the Windy City that are loving the Bulls, and they're going to have to reflect back on their Jordan era because it's just not going to be a great year this year in the Windy City. So, but there's some good teams out there in the Eastern Conference, and definitely both you and I are in agreement, I think, on Chicago and Washington actually taking the top seed overall this regular season doesn't sound like a stretch indeed, seeing how they're so cohesive. But again, with them, it all goes on health because they're not a very deep team again this year. So, but if it does go right, I definitely see a strong outing from them. So, with that said, we've covered the Eastern Conference. There's a lot of great action going on there, and we'll do so throughout the season. But also as well, we're going to cover the Western Conference, and I know you and I both. No, again, this sounds like a broken record from last year when we covered at this point in time, but looks like it is Golden State and the rest of the field. But I'll let you talk a little bit more about your thoughts on what's going on with let's go for the top seeds in the Western Conference.
Um, you said there's Golden State and then there's everybody else. Um, I think Golden State will win 66 games. Um, they'll be the number one seed overall, both conferences. They're the favorite to make it out of the Western Conference. I think their position at the top is pretty much solidified, barring any injury. I mean, they've been very fortunate, probably the most fortunate team as far as injuries in the league the last few years. So if that continues, you can expect what you've seen. I think the other three of the top four teams will be San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Houston. I think those are seeds in the Western Conference.
And I ask you this because your four is similar to what my top four would be, and probably everyone else's. But second through fourth, it seems to be a little bit of a mixed bag as far as what everybody is thinking as far as who slots in where, second to third to fourth. I have right now, and I'm probably going back for this week, and I'll probably go over the next few days before I start writing up any NBA predictions. But I have right now, I'm going to say Houston as the second seed, but Oklahoma City to me is not that far behind. Obviously, the new additions in Houston of Chris Paul, and also with Oklahoma City, it's Paul George and Carmelo Anthony make things different in the Western Conference. But don't forget about San Antonio, because San Antonio, if Kawhi Leonard gets back healthy, they could prove to be back to their winning 55 plus games as normal. So I want to hear your thoughts on how those second, third, and fourth seeds line up this NBA season.
For me, with San Antonio, it all depends on the health of Kawhi Leonard. If Kawhi Leonard, the majority, like he did, and he has been, instead of being injured, I think they get the second seed. Last year they won, I believe, 61 games, and they still won 61. It's just, it's that Greg Popovich magic. He knows exactly what to do. He knows how to get his team to be professional every night, come out and play. If they don't, he blasts them. He doesn't sugarcoat. So I think San Antonio, I think the number two seed, barring, injuries. Houston, I think Houston, they won 55 games, if I'm not mistaken, last year. I don't see them winning a whole lot more. I know Chris Paul's the addition, and that tends to make people think, oh, it's an automatic jump of 10 wins or so. But I think they'll win probably 3 to 4 more games. So I can see them winning 58. I think his impact is more so for the postseason than the regular season. I think the way they play is conducive to winning games, period. So I don't think there'll be a huge for Houston. Oklahoma City, on the other hand, 7 games last year, somewhere in that range. I think it'll take the click. They got 2 major new pieces, and I think that Westbrook, as dominant as he is, I think he'll have to some not the essence of his game, but just pacing and the way he goes. And I think that'll take a little bit of time. When they hit the second half of the season, you can see them going on those runs where, they run off 13, 14, 15 in a row. I think they have that kind of talent. So take time for them to mesh. So those are my 4. I think Golden State, San Antonio, probably Houston 3rd, and Oklahoma City 4th in the top 4 seeds.
Those are some excellent choices right there. And I agree, there will be a learning curve in place for the triumvirate of Melo, also as well, Paul, PG-13, and also Russell Westbrook, those 3 getting together. But by the end of the season, they could be a very formidable force and prove to be somewhat very difficult out when it comes to later on the playoffs. But we'll talk about that in here in a second. The West is stacked with a lot of great teams, and I wanted to get into talk to you with about the last 4 teams, because there are a lot of teams and a lot of very good teams, which you and I, if we were talking about them in the Eastern Conference, would be much higher. But there are a lot of teams fighting for those last 4 spots in the Western Conference. Who do you think will actually be there at the end in the Western Conference when it comes to slots 5, 6, 7, and 8?
Pretty much it'll shake out the way it did last year. I think there'll be a 2-team switch. However, I think Minnesota's in. I think Minnesota, bring any injuries, should win 50 games. With the additions that they made, with the talent that they have, I think they'll make a push for probably the 5th seed. They're going to be right there. I think that can make it. I want to see the Gallinari movement, how that affects them. But that they had last year, they won 40 games. They went on a roll at some point, mid to end of the season. I think with the off season, I think they'll be in a good position to make it. I think Portland is in for me. I think the final team to be in, who did I put in? Who am I taking out? So Denver and Minnesota are the 2 teams that I think will make the jump. I think Memphis will fall out. No, some people still have high hopes on Utah. I don't know if they're going to get through the Gordon Hayward move. So I think they'll fall out. But I think the rest of the Western Conference, will pretty much shake out the way it has.
But that last team, you still haven't chosen that last team that might.
I still haven't chosen. Okay.
Because that just tells everybody out there how difficult this is as far as finding. It looks like about 7 or 8 teams that can probably squeeze into those last 4 spots. But there is that final team. So I'd like to hear, what do you think might be that last team? Because I have some thoughts myself.
Okay. So I have Golden State, San Antonio, Houston, Oklahoma City, Los Angeles, and my final team, I'm probably going to say, I think Dallas. See, I know New Orleans, they have the 2 big guns, but to me, they just haven't rest of their roster. Got on a good run but they started out so poorly that they just couldn't make up the ground. I think if without those injuries early in the season, I think they'll be able to squeak out, 40, 42, 43 wins and that eighth seed.
Those are some great thoughts indeed. Well, for me, I will tell you, like I said, I've got similar to what you have when it comes to the top four seeds in Golden State, Houston, San Antonio, and also Oklahoma City. My bottom four, which are going to be no slouches, and like I said, if we were talking to them in the Eastern Conference, they would be taught right there at the top. I will be going with Portland. I will be going with Minnesota. Those two teams, I think, are poised to do good things. As far as Nurkic going over to Portland was a great thing for them. Plus, they've got that great backcourt of McCallum and also as well McCollum. I'm sorry, and also Lillard. So that those three, if they could really mesh, I think there's going to be great things. Also, as well, Minnesota, like you said, with Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Wiggins, and also their newest arrival, Jimmy Butler. Those three can really make things happen in Minnesota. So you've got two teams right there, but the last two slots are really going to be up for grabs. And I'm going to go right now. I'm thinking right now, Denver, I think, will make the playoffs this year. Paul Millsap, his addition will bring a defensive-minded toughness that will put them not near the top, but at least get them enough in the right direction so that because they still have a prolific offense, and I think they're still going to be able to score points whenever they want to. Being able to stop teams is the question, and I think they'll have just enough defensive mindedness, toughness to go around with Paul Millsap. I think that definitely will help them there to slide into that 7 seed. The number 8 seed, that is the toughest and up for grabs thing. I can tell you what, that is crazy indeed. You've got the Utah, the Clippers, New Orleans, like you said, with Dallas, Memphis. You've got all these teams vying for that last spot, which are all right around each other in talent quality and whatnot. I think right now I'm going to go on the fence, and I'm going to probably say Utah. I think the Clippers just narrowly miss it because I'm not convinced Blake Griffin can be healthy an entire season as of yet. And if he is not healthy, they don't have a Chris Paul to rely on, and I think that's the issue I have there. But I think Utah will be very solid defensively. They might not have issues scoring points, but I think if they're going to keep a lot of games in the 80s and 90s, they're going to be very tough for people to have great games against. So I think they will be able to sneak into that last spot. But it's going to be a toss-up between, like I said, Dallas, New Orleans. If they can find something besides the Twin Towers that are there, if somebody can shoot outside besides the Twin Towers that are there, that'd be great. Also, as well, you've got really solid teams as well with, like I said, Utah and the Clippers and Memphis. You cannot sleep on them. They might find a way to sneak in once again and defy the odds again this year. But great things going about. As far as teams like Phoenix, the Lakers, my Lakers, I see them, getting a few more games, but they're still a work in progress, and there's still a long ways to go there. Phoenix, I like as a team on the rise as far as to at least get into a point where they look like a more competitive team. The Sacramento Kings, I know that's going to be another work in progress as well, as far as trying to get that team to listen as far as to their coach and become a better unit now that they've got some veteran influences there. But those are some great teams and great picks indeed. But it comes right down to the playoffs. Anthony, I want to hear your thoughts. When it comes down to the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, who are the 4 teams that are going to survive as far as the 2 teams in the Eastern Conference and the 2 teams in the West, and who comes out in each?
Well, let's start with the Eastern Conference. Again, Cleveland will be there. I just think they're built for it. They have the best player in the world. They have, championship experience now. Most of the guys on that team have won. You got Dwayne Wade. I think they're poised and they're built to compete for this championship at least one more year, is Boston. I think it could shake out to where they fall in their because I don't think they're just a cakewalk to conference finals. That I know everybody, they went to the finals last year and they're going, okay, well, they added Kyrie. Now it's time for them to just, they'll probably lose to Cleveland. But I think it's between them and the Wizards, and I'm going to venture to say, I know it's a little bit of a hot take, I guess. I think Washington beats them.
That's
I
just
think, yeah, I
that's
think
just what I was going to say. So that's excellent.
Yeah, I think Washington beats. I think Washington beats them if they have to play them. If they have to play Toronto, then I think then Boston will make it. But if they have to play Washington, then I think Washington will beat them, and they'll meet Cleveland in the conference finals and lose to Cleveland. The Western in the Western Conference, there's Golden State. There is somebody else, but the thing about it is, like I said earlier, they've been the most fortunate team over the last 3 to 4 seasons when it comes to injury. They haven't had anything happen. And the Western Conference, I think, has loaded up pretty much for that possibility. I mean, you go into a series with them, and one injury can change that whole series because they've loaded up. When you talk about San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Houston, to be one mishap away from being able to come out of that series. Though that the two teams, for me, there are two teams that I feel like can compete against Golden State, and that's San Antonio and Oklahoma City. I think they have the individual talent to be able to compete with them enough. But I think in the end, Golden State will conference in the NBA Finals.
That's some excellent predictions indeed, and almost a mirror to what I'm about to say in regards to the playoffs are concerned. When it comes to the Eastern Conference, it is going to be Cleveland, but like you said, it's all about positioning. So if, let's say, for instance, they end up number 4 and Washington's number 4, I think they'll just be Washington then. But I think that is going to be the toughest test for them, is the Washington Wizards team out there. As far as I think Boston, I do like the Kyrie Irving trade. Let's get that off the bat. But I don't think their team is set for the long haul like it was last season. I think it's going to take one more year of the young forwards, Tatum, and also as well Brown, to really get into things as far as becoming a major force for the Celtics. I see them next year being an even more solidifying force, and I really think that this year, even if Boston gets to the Eastern Conference Finals, if by, like I said, positioning, I still think Cleveland has advantage over anyone in that area. And when it comes to the Western Conference, like you said, it all depends on the positioning 1 through 4. But at this point in time, I'm going to say it is Golden State over Houston. But San Antonio or Oklahoma City, whoever is number 2 seed in that area, definitely will have the advantage as far as up until they get to Golden State. And then, like you said, with health, if their health is good, there should be no stopping Golden State in the Western Conference. So that leaves us both almost exactly like we were last year and the year before that and the year before that, with Golden State and Cleveland in the finals. Almost like a broken record. But hey, props to those two franchises for doing the right things. Your thoughts on who eventually comes out on top this year in the NBA Finals? Your predictions of Golden State versus Cleveland in the finals once again.
State, Cleveland in the finals. Golden State will have home court advantage. I think now we're speaking both teams completely healthy. Both teams, nobody's down. Everybody's there. I think that pull it out. I think they'll win their third in 4 years. A lot closer than last year. I honestly think last year wasn't as wide of a gap as it was perceived. But I think this year it'll be Golden State in 6 or 7.
That's a great prediction indeed. I actually think a little bit on the opposite side, even if Isaiah Thomas is healthy, because I think defensively they are much worse off without, and I can't believe I'm saying this, with Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie Irving is one of the worst defensive guards there. But Isaiah Thomas is even worse than he is. So and then you got Dwayne Wade, who is no longer speedy Dwayne Wade anymore. Obviously Rose, Derrick Rose, like I said, Jalen Rose for there. Derrick Rose, he and Dwayne Wade, if they're not playing at a top level come the playoffs and in the finals, that's going to be an issue because they can't hit threes, so they may see very limited time as well. And it will take a lot as far as the other players from Crowder, from Korver, and you're relying a lot on players who have not been able to get it done in the NBA Finals so far. So for me, I think it will be a little bit easier ride for Golden State if they're healthy, because I think Golden State is even deeper this year with Nick Young and Omar Caspi taking those slots. So at this point in time, barring health and any issues of that nature, I think Golden State may even do it in a sweep. So I think, like I said, LeBron is great a player. He's the best player on the planet still at this point in time. But it's just going to be very hard for them to match up when Isaiah Thomas is on the floor with them. I think there's going to be a lot of issues there. And also as well, you've got not enough shooting from the backcourt that will help unless J.R. Smith gets a lot of burn, and he is going to be out there playing the majority of the minutes because, again, and then it goes back to the situation where they still can't guard Steph, and they still can't guard. They will be able to slow down Kevin Durant a little bit, but then you've got the issue of Curry and Thompson could really blow up against that backcourt of Cleveland. So I see Golden State coming out on top again, like you said, for the third time in 4 years. So any last thoughts on the NBA seasons? Anything that you're interested in looking at, and anything you want everybody to take a look at when the season comes around?
Two things. One, on what you said about Cleveland. I think I kind of agree with you, but my thoughts is that to his senses and put J.R. Smith in the starting lineup so that they have some shooting on the perimeter, at least until Isaiah comes back. Right now with Wade on the floor, I think the floor is shrunk, which is really going to cause some problems.
And that's why I'm saying I think it'll be easier for Golden State. If they throw that lineup out there against Golden State, they're really going to get hurt.
I agree. The hopes is that he'll come to his senses and realize that if you can throw Wade with Rose and those guys in your second unit is much stronger. I think they should kind of keep the first unit intact of what they had last year. I know they're going with, which is fine. I just think that you can't not have the shooting on the floor. With Wade, I think you should let him be the leader of the second group. Let him command that group. So one, that you can keep LeBron off the floor some, give him less minutes, let him be more well rested. I agree with you and I disagree. I think if Tyronn Lue can realize that, bring your guys off the bench, then I think it's better. But if he tries to throw that, line up out there, then I think it'll be trouble. And
I agree with you. If he does that, if he realizes that, because it creates more shooting. And remember, Cleveland, when they won in the finals, they were the most prolific offensive team in history when they did that, as far as in the NBA finals are concerned, for the game that they won. They cannot play defense strong enough to beat the Golden State Warriors. They have to beat them at their O game, and it starts with a whole lot of great shooting. And if, like you said, he makes the arrangements and the egos, puts those egos aside, because I think that's what it comes right down to. It's all about egos with Rose, and also as well Wade, making sure that they're taken care of and placated. But if they come off the bench like they should, then maybe that makes it a much more competitive series. We'll have to wait and see, but I definitely still think whatever lineups they throw out there, that Golden State over a 7-game series can consistently prove out to be on top, because you're asking a lot from a lot of those players to produce like they never did before. And they were able to do it in one game last year. Could they do it in more? We'll have to wait and see. But definitely, with you and I both thinking that it's going to be another great finals indeed, with Golden State coming out on top. But Anthony, just great to have you on again. You are man in the know. It's Anthony Barbarin. We're just so glad to be able to talk the NBA season predictions. And I'll tell you what, we're going to get together again over a few times over the course, hopefully the rest of the season, talk about their thoughts as far as on the way through, and hopefully we can get more of your keen insight on the NBA as the season goes forward.
thanks for having me. I always love coming on. I'm up for it anytime you're ready.
Sounds good, my friend. And I wish you best of luck with your Clippers. And I know that they're going to be a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to where my Lakers will stand. But it's all about health. If Blake Griffin stays healthy, their outlook looks a lot better. But with me, both and I, you and I know it's all about Mr. BG as far as staying healthy there. So
Absolutely.
absolutely, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I think it'll be tough being healthy. If they can be healthy, if he can play 70, 72 games, if you can get that from Gallinari, then I think they'll be right there. I think they have one of the tougher schedules as far as road. They have like 3 or 4 road. What I'm trying to say, just games on the road consecutively that are tough. I mean, like 3-game road trips, 5, 7 games. So it's going to be tough for them. But health is like you said, is their main concern.
Definitely, if that's the case, the Clippers will be looking good indeed if they're healthy. Lakers, they're hopefully a team on the rise, but they're looking forward to free agency of next year. Let's just put it right out there. But I'm hoping Ball and Kuzma will provide that lift as far as rookies are concerned. But we'll talk about that on a future episode as Anthony Barbarin, our man in the know when it comes to NBA, rejoins us right here on Pop Culture Cosmos and Inside Sports. Once again, if you're catching us on Inside Sports, we truly appreciate you doing so. Catch the Pop Culture Cosmos show every Monday and Friday when it drops on Apple Podcasts and so many other outlets. And also as well, if you're watching this on Pop Culture Cosmos, we truly thank you as well. And also catch us on the Inside Sports show every Wednesday from our good friends at Humanity Media. Anthony Barbarin, our man in the know. It's just truly great to have you on again and being part of Pop Culture Cosmos and Inside Sports. I wish you all the best, my friend, on a great NBA season. And I'll tell you what, so great to have you on again every time.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Good luck to your Lakers this year.
They need it.
But, it'll be a fun season. I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping for, good games. Same, everything that the NBA brings.
As am I, my friend, as am I, and we'll be able to talk about it over the NBA season. Truly a pleasure having you on. Once again, Anthony Barbarin, our man in the know when it comes to the NBA, right here at Pop Culture Cosmos and Inside Sports.